Good morning. It is April 10th, 2019, 5:05 a.m. So I kind of want to go over what I've been through for the past, I guess, a year to the date, pretty much. So last year of April, actually, I just looked at the medical record. I've been having some headaches that were really bad. So I was figuring, after searching the internet, like, I've never had headaches before. So, I was thinking maybe I had like a tumor or something growing in my brain. And so, like, April 8th last year, I go and I get a CT scan on my head. And they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with your brain, but you have a sinus infection, like a really bad one. But I was like, I have a sinus infection, but I had no postnasal drip or anything like that. Like, so I ended up on, a Moxclav, which is like a mixture of two, I guess, things, antibiotics. I took those, but I didn't finish taking them. I just didn't want to have those affecting my, immune system or whatever. So I never really finished taking those. For a while now too, at the same time, I've been taking a lot of workout supplements. So, for a few years, actually, my daily intake with energy drinks of caffeine was from anywhere between 500 a day to 1,000 milligrams of caffeine. And that's not, with all the other supplements that I was taking. So, I would take like this Lipo Black pill that had a high concentration of caffeine. Sometimes I'd take that, and I noticed, like, I'd go work out and it would be like actually harder to work out because I'd get to a point where my head would hurt really bad. So I would stop working out and I'd still have all this unused supplement of energy, and I'd go lay down with a huge headache. And like, I never really attributed this to all the supplements I was taking, really. So like, I wasn't really connecting the dots there until later on, when it wouldn't be much longer after I drank anything caffeine where I would just be like, headache, like right away. And I would just put my face down and I was like, ugh. So, that started, and I started worrying more and more about why I have these headaches, even after the scan last year said that I didn't have anything wrong in my brain. And so, I start Googling more and more things. And so I'm okay, what about my eyes? Why do my eyes hurt like so bad, like from the pressure in my head, I start looking up more and more things. And then I want to say about November of last year, my wife and kids got in a car accident that totaled the car. And it was a Nissan Xterra. When I got that phone call with my wife crying, and I could barely make out what she was saying, that all she said is she hit a wall. She hit a car and then she hit a wall. And, I freaked out. Like, I freaked. I was at work. I was, in the middle of cutting some metal, removing something out of the casino. I work at Caesar's Palace. Um, I ran. I just ran out. I told everybody I gotta go. Just ran. And like, I was in such a panic. Like, I was running so hard. And on the way out, I saw not my boss, but the boss for the electricians. And I was like, hey, tell him I'm leaving. My wife was in an accident. I gotta go. And I bolted out. And so, I kind of felt like I pulled this muscle in my leg. I was running so hard, but the pain never stopped. And like, especially when I sat down, I would feel it like in my inner thigh. And I was like, what is this? And I started looking up symptoms of, or where all the lymph nodes are at in your body, basically. And there's some in your inner thigh right there. So I was like, what if I got an issue with my lymph nodes? And then I started thinking about, okay, there's some in my neck. I was like, I'm touching around. And then I started getting this sore spot right here. And it was just on the outside when I touched it. And then I go to the emergency room for this. They take my blood. They're like, well, your blood's fine. Your breathing's normal. Your heart rate's a little high, probably because, anxiety or something like that is probably fueling my heart rate being high all the time. And plus, I'm still doing the caffeine at this point. I haven't quit completely, but I was cutting back on it. And I was probably going through like a withdrawal while I was cutting back because I wasn't having as much. And I was also probably having an intolerance to it because I've always taken too much. So, at this point I'm in the ER. And I'm like, something's wrong with me. Like, I'm freaking out. They gave me painkillers through my IV that day. And I had such bad, like, it was like, I can't remember. It was a painkiller, Benadryl, and something else. It was like this concoction of 3 things. And I had already, like, my legs were like, I couldn't sit when I was in the waiting room. Once I got there and got the IV, and it was really bad. I was like sleeping up here because of the Benadryl. I was like ready to pass out, but my legs were like kicking. I couldn't, like, I had restless legs. And then for the whole time I was just uncomfortable. And then the doctor comes in and he's feeling around, he's feeling my leg. And, I told him I kind of had a pain in my testicles. He's feeling there. He's like, there's nothing wrong here. And I'm like, I'm telling myself, there's got to be something wrong because I feel all this pain inside. And he's like, no, you're fine. Your blood work's fine. Everything's coming back fine. Normal. So now I'm getting to this point where I'm still worried about, something being wrong with me. And I keep, like, freaking myself out, I guess. So I get to the point where I start getting these twitches in my, well, I didn't start getting the twitches. I started getting tired first. And not long after I was actually quitting the caffeine, I woke up one morning and I had like really bad, like, vertigo kind of feeling. I was dizzy. I was kind of like having trouble balancing throughout the whole morning. So I was like, what's wrong? I was sitting there brushing my teeth. I was like, there's got to be something wrong. So then, I'm always worried about something being wrong. And I've kind of always been, even as a kid, like I always thought I had asthma or something because this other kid had asthma. And when he'd run in PE, they'd, almost call an ambulance. And I was like, ooh, what if that happened to me, And I got to the point where, like, I think it was just like, anxiety, I guess, that would make me feel like I can't breathe. I can't get enough breath in my lungs. And I ended up actually with an inhaler for a little while, but I don't think I even used it right. I was like, I didn't know how to, like, inhale the stuff, but I guess in my head I was thinking that it was helping, and then eventually I only had it one time, and then eventually I stopped using it, and it escaped my brain. But back to what's going on now. I started getting like really tired at work, like fatigued. I had no energy, and this is when I'm coming off of like not doing the caffeine anymore. I still do like a little bit of coffee, but throughout the day I would like get these weird feelings, like feeling like lightheaded, and then like I coughed one time at work, and I started seeing like spots like bouncing around in my eyes, and then that just freaked me out. I was like telling myself, what if I just died right here at work? And like, I guess, I don't know if that would set off like a reaction in my head. Like, I never felt like I had anxiety, but I think I was going through anxiety. Like, I didn't think I was panicking, but I kind of was. Then maybe like a week or two later, I started getting the twitches like in both my legs, just back and forth, boom, 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 boom. Then I'd start feeling them a few days later, like in my back of my arms, my triceps, and I started Googling, muscle twitches, and I was like, oh, here we go. This is it. This is what I have. Because ALS was the first thing that came up. And, and then other things like MS and, all these other, motor neuron diseases start coming up. And then you just start reading about it. And then you watch videos of people with ALS and like, they have these muscle twitches, but, they're also like super weak. And, from a year of these headaches till now, practically a year on the money, I haven't like lost my strength. I can lift the same amount of weight, but it really takes a lot of energy out of me afterwards. Like, I'll be tired, but then I can go back and I could do it again, because I'm always like, after reading about ALS, I'm always like doing strength tests. Like, I'm always trying to test my own strength. I'm trying to, see if I could still do some things, but it just wears me out to the point where like, I feel like I need to take a nap, but I'll lay there with my eyes closed or something like that, but I can't really sleep because I was getting like these jerks when I try to fall asleep. And like in the beginning, when I was first worried about this, it was so bad, especially when I was like laying in bed trying to sleep, take a nap at home, to try to sleep at night. It would just jolt me, and I would just be like, I can't sleep. And I'd be telling myself, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die from this. I'm gonna be dead in 3 years. Because that's like the time frame between like 2 to 5 years or whatever. So I'm like, I'm in the middle. I'm at 3. I'm already telling myself, excuse me, 3 years and I'm out. So I'm stuck with this feeling, and it gets to the point where at night, like, I'm waking up like every hour I'm waking up. I still wake up in the middle of the night to this now, but I take, I'll take melatonin some nights. I'll do like the HCI, which is basically, the Z-Quil, which is basically Benadryl. It's just, different brand. In its liquid form. It's not like a pill Benadryl. I'll take that before bed sometimes, or I'll take alternate between things, so I don't want to get like used to taking something. So then I'll take like this chamomile lavender tea stuff. It's not really tea because it doesn't have caffeine in it, which I try to avoid completely. So then I'll take that to help me fall asleep, and then it'll get me mostly through the night. Sometimes I'll wake up, usually it's at the same time, which is actually like right at midnight, 12:45, or not 11:45, or right at midnight. then I'll fall back asleep, and then I'll hear my alarm go off, which is at, it is ridiculously early at 3:30, because I have to be to work by 6 o'clock. So I got to get ready in the morning. And it kind of sucks because I wake up tired. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. And I still do it. And I'm still worried today. And, now I got these twitches all over my body. I get them in my stomach. I get them in my butt. I get them up my back. I'm starting to get them in my lips. Sometimes in my forehead. Sometimes in my nose, not so often. When I sit there and I don't do anything is when I really start noticing things. And I'm like, get back into the negative thoughts. Thinking, do I still have ALS? Is it too soon to know? Do I have MS? Is it too soon to know that? I've started looking at Isaac's syndrome and things like that. And it just keeps, you get down this rabbit hole of still Googling, even though my doctors have told me stop doing that. My primary, I've talked to 2 different primaries, and they're both thinking, it's stress related. The caffeine was a big factor in that stress, and with the withdrawal of the caffeine. 2 primaries have told me that, I should see a psychiatrist. The first time I went to a primary, he told me he was going to give me an antidepressant. And then his other doctor working with him was like, no, you don't want the side effects, And the other primary gave me an antidepressant, and I tried one actually last night. And I've had the prescription now for like a week. And I was like, I don't want to really risk side effects of it. And it's called, or it's not antidepressant, I guess anti-anxiety. And it's called Buspirone or something like that. I took one last night. I didn't like it. It made me really, kind of like the Benadryl. Like, it made me like nodding off. I don't like it. I don't think I'm gonna take that anymore. My neurologist, when I walked in there, I was like, I think I have ALS. He's like giving me all the tests, testing my reflexes, stuff like that, and do you feel this? Do you feel this the same? Close your eyes, touch your nose, and stuff like that, and running through all these tests. Can you do a squat? Testing my arm strength, and he's like, there's no way you have ALS or MS. Get that out of your head. But he put me in for a nerve conduction test, and he sent me for more blood work for specific things like my magnesium, Epstein-Barr virus, which actually came back that I have high levels of Epstein-Barr. So I went back to my primary, and he's like, well, these are IgG numbers, which, once you get Epstein-Barr virus, you could have got it as a kid or whatever from getting mono. Once that virus replicates at any time, that number, I guess, is basically going to be what it is. So he's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that is active now. It could have been active before. And so, and that could have been from when I was taking the antibiotics, helping fuel that, and started this whole thing. I mean, I still think I might have like chronic fatigue syndrome or something. So, and like fibromyalgia, because now I got not only muscle twitching, but I get, a little bit of soreness. If I overuse my muscles, I'll get sore. I had like a soreness in my neck right here. Got like really tight last week. Because I did this one time, and all the muscles in my neck, all the way down across my collarbone right here, everything got like super tight. I was like, oh man, I messed up. And it was like right before I went to go get my nerve conduction test that morning. And I was like, dang it. You know, I was like, one more thing to worry about, one more thing I gotta feel. You know, it's still a little bit tight after actually a week. Like right there, when I turn like this, at a slight angle, it's a little bit tight in my neck. But it's not sore feeling anymore. So, you know, maybe that's getting better. I don't know why I did that. Tighten my whole neck up. I was just like standing in the backyard like watching birds fly around, and I ended up doing that for some reason. So I go get my nerve conduction test. Actually, let's go into that. You know, he tested all my major nerves in my arms and my legs, all 4 limbs. Test the signal going to the brain. You know, my large nerves, he's like, those are working fine. But he's like, you know, do you use a lot of pliers and stuff like that? And I'm a carpenter, so, and I've used my hands and feet as a hammer, you know, a lot doing my job. And they've told me when I first started doing carpentry, when I was going through the training, they're like, don't use your hands as a hammer, don't use your feet as a hammer. That's bad for you. You know, don't beat things to get things in place with your hands. Use a tool. And a lot of times I ignore that because it's more convenient just to, you know, muscle things in. Like, you don't want to climb up off of a ladder to climb down off of a ladder to get a tool when you could just beat it in with your hand or whatever. So anyways, he's testing the small nerves on the back sides of my wrists. You know, he's going through all that. And he's like, well, these aren't doing too well. So like, I'm like, oh man. He's like, the guy doing the test was like, but, you know, the good news is that it's not in your brain, which is a sign of, you know, motor neuron diseases. He's like, this is all within your neck and your lower back. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm okay with that. But, you know, these reoccurring thoughts still don't go away because I still have these twitches. And, you know, I'm not sure if they're in my tongue or not, but it kind of feels like they are. It kind of feels like they aren't. It kind of feels like they come and go. I got a tingling feeling like in the tip of my tongue, and I start worrying about it, and then like it'll go away. I'll wake up not feeling it, but then I start thinking about it. Is my tongue numb? And then it starts getting numb, and I'm like, you know, I think a lot of this is like a really big mental mess in my head of health anxiety and a general anxiety, because you know what? Throughout all of this, I've always had a worry in my head that, you know, I'm going to die young. I'm going to leave my kids, or, you know, or I'll even think like that car accident was like the worst fear in my life with my kids in the car and losing my whole family. Like, my worst fear hit me that day. I'm like, you know, there's ambulances there. It's a bad accident. When I show up to the scene, I drove there. I was like in a panic driving there. I almost wrecked myself getting there. Because I was ready to blow through red lights and just get there. And so, you know, I've always worried about things. I've always worried about dying early. I've even worried about dying old. I've always had a fear of dying. So it's been a big issue for me. Especially since like I've been starting to hit my 30s. I'm 31 now. It's just like I feel like I'm in my midlife. Like, you know, people die in their 60s. Not everybody lives to be like 80 something. So I'm like, I'm already halfway through. I'm like, what? You know, there's only like 30 years left. And I try to like quantify the time left. And I'm like, there's not much. You know? And I'm like worrying myself about this stupid thing. And I'm like not focused on life. Like, I was getting to the point where I'd wake up in the morning being like, feeling like I'm not even here. I'm not real. Like, I'd wake up and I'm like, why did I wake up? And I'd be like, hopeless. So, I still have, try to break this down, like get this video over with. I still have my strength and ability. It's just that when I use my energy, I'm done. Like when I walk, especially walking, because that's the main thing that I do, my legs feel like noodles. I can continue to walk and just keep pushing. And and sometimes even I'll jog to my car after work, even though I know it's going to be like, you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to be out of energy once you're done. And you're going to make it worse. And then you're going to start thinking more negative after that. But I do the strength testing constantly, my grip. I'll flip things in the air. One thing that I do have trouble with is small objects. Like when I twist a cap off a bottle, I drop it and then I'm freaked out. I'm oh, it's got to be something wrong with me still. Still got to be something wrong with me. So, I've been living with this now for, not the twitching for a year, but with the anxiety over my health, probably for more than a year, but it started getting really bad when I started having those headaches. And, now, it even got brain fog, I forget things. I gotta do double takes to, grab things in the morning. I take a lot of vitamins now because I've been worried about it, whether it's the ALS or thinking it's the Epstein-Barr virus, going back and forth between all these different things, thinking, this is what I have. This is what I have. I'll Google something else. This is what I have. And I'll jump back and forth between thinking I have all these different things, and it's not helping. Even going to these doctors and they're telling me there's nothing wrong with you. It's anxiety, trying to set me up with psychiatrists. All your blood work looks good. Aside from, having that virus, Epstein-Barr virus, I still worry about that. Even though he said it doesn't necessarily mean that it's active now, I worry about those high numbers. I had I actually got sick the first time I went into the neurologist. And so I had a sore throat. I had a lot of buildup in my throat, mucus in the morning, really bad. I still kind of have a cough after 2 weeks. I still have postnasal drip now. I have it. And, it kind of freaks me out because once that builds up in the back of your throat and you try to swallow it and and your throat kind of sticks, it freaks me out. I'm oh, because the symptoms that you read up on are you have a hard time swallowing, and so it feels like food gets stuck in my throat when I eat and things like that. When I first start to eat, it's fine. And then the longer I eat, the more I worry about it, and then the more it feels like it's going to get stuck in my throat, and then I'm freaking out about that, and I'm done eating after that, and I'm I don't want to eat no more. I'll just drink water. But it's my swallowing isn't really affected. In the morning when I take my vitamins and stuff like that, I take 15 different vitamins, and I'll take 6 pills at a time, and some of them are large, and I'll swallow them all at once. Boom, boom, boom. Because I'm trying to keep my immune system, active and healthy, and keep my mood right. Even though that's hard to do, it's extremely hard to do, to keep my mood positive. It is the hardest part. And it's what's keeping me, I think, in these symptoms. So, anyways, I have this whole range of symptoms. Sometimes I get dizzy when I'm walking as well. And, off balance feeling. But for the most part, I can keep myself together. I still have my same strength. I kind of fumble words a little bit, and you've probably heard that throughout this video. It's because I have a hard time like keeping my thoughts together. So, a brain fog, like I said. I'll forget things in the morning. Like, I'll get all my stuff together when I go shower in the morning. Sometimes I'll forget, to grab my undershirts and things like that. I'll forget my socks or my, and I have to go back and get it. Fumbling like my keys a lot. And I think a lot of it's psychological. Like, my body's like letting itself fail because I'm thinking about failing too much and having these symptoms. So I think that's where I'm at now. Yeah. So my whole body twitches, even up into my lips now. I have muscle aches. I have a little bit of joint pains. I have like some burning feelings in some of my muscles, but a lot of that is like come and go. I have a burning sensation like in my elbow sometimes if I overuse it. So, it sucks. I know a lot of people go through it. I know a lot of people search up YouTube videos trying to find other people with, similar symptoms. And sometimes that doesn't help because you find a lot of people on YouTube that have like just the twitching. They won't even get sore or tired, So you like lose hope in that. And it's like, man, you don't really have a lot of symptoms. And you lose hope and you get worse. And you're like, okay, so I do have the worst. And that might not be the case. I still think that I still have ALS sometimes. I'm thinking that I have MS sometimes. I still go through it in my head. And it's hard to break. And, it's taking a toll on my work life, my family. I'm always telling them, I think I'm going to die. I still have that in my head. I'll still be telling my wife, I think I'm still going to die, I'm still worried about it. Sucks. And, sorry, this is a 32-minute video now, 33 minutes. But, I'll tell you to keep your hopes up and know that a lot of those diseases are rare, especially for young people. I know young people still get it, but try to clear your head of it. I still can't do it, but if you can do it, and if you got questions, ask me down below. I'm sure there's other symptoms that I've missed or forgotten about right now, but tell me all your symptoms. Tell me everything you're going through. Leave it in the comments. I'm here to talk about it. I'm usually on YouTube all day or something, looking things up and trying to find meditation even online, on YouTube. Bible things, I'll look up, try to clear my mind or focus on something else, And yes, I do believe in God. And that's a part of how I'm trying to accept dying, basically, is trying to get right with God and accepting Jesus and to quit really sinning and, just to love everybody and try to live like Jesus until whatever my time is. And learning to accept that, I'm not going to live forever. As much as I thought I was when I was younger. So, I don't know. You got to find what's going to help you get better. Or at least accept that, fate is fate. Anyways, I'm gonna go. It's 35 minutes and 10 seconds now, so hit me up in the comments. Have a good day.